All right, welcome in everybody. We are live. Sorry, we're a little bit late tonight. We're on time for when we scheduled it, but we scheduled a little bit late tonight because I needed to get home just a shade late. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups right now because everybody wants to be in there. Am I allowed to say we're going to let it breathe while we're opening this thing up? I guess I
Sure.
am. They call me an honorary deacon since I'm not the priest. So we'll let it breathe for just a second. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Mile High Insiders on Wednesday night. I am not Luke Patterson or Nick Kendall. I'm Scott Kennedy. I do morning shows, and I'm usually in the background at night because they don't want me to be seen at night. I get ornery at night. So today I'm guest hosting. I'm filling in for Luke. I'm here with my friend Thomas Hall over on this side. Thomas, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well, other than technical difficulties. Obviously, I'm working on a different computer and can't really do as much. So, but I'm having a great time. Free agency finally is real. I mean, I know we've been looking at it for 2 days, and it's all been, the temporary, whatever you call it. I can't even remember what it's called, the tampering time.
See,
But now that it's official,
I refuse to use that term. I refuse
Yeah.
to use the term legal tampering because that's an
Yeah.
oxymoron.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I call it the contact period. So it's just like it's an old recruiting term. This is the opening of the contact period when coaches are allowed to call the kids. It was a dead period, then a contact period. It's a contact period. We're allowed to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And it's funny how in the first 5 minutes of a contact period, we have our deal done. Like we
Yes.
haven't been talking to them for the last 6 months.
I know, it's so strange.
Yeah, but
Just
it's been a great opening. I want to say hello to some folks in the chat, especially coming in Flazify. He came in nice and early.
Thank you.
Coming in yellow with the super chat. He says, "Sup, Thomas and Scott. That's us. Can you try and
Hello.
give 3 reasons why Zach Allen is better overall for the Broncos than Draymond Jones? I still think Dre is better overall. Upset on losing him. Changed my mind. I think I can give you 3 reasons, and it still might not change your mind. I think he's a little bit bigger. I think that's one. A little bit better against the run. He's a shade younger. They're both young. He's cheaper, so you can invest some of that money in other places like your offensive line. And 5, he wants to be in Denver. That's a big one right now. We've talked on Broncos for Breakfast about some of the culture change. Most of the guys in Denver have never sniffed the playoffs. Now, I know he's coming from the Arizona Cardinals, so forget that part of it. But he's excited. He's got something to prove. He's athletic as hell, and he's big and long and strong on the edge. This was one of my top free agent prospects for teams that needed an edge / defensive end, including the Broncos. Y'all know I cover the Atlanta Falcons a lot. This was my top guy out there, really. And he's coming to Denver. I'm pretty excited about this right now. Is he a like for Draymond Jones? Maybe. But if you're able to do that and not spend $17 million a year, that's a win in my book, Thomas.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I was disappointed to see Draymond Jones leave.
Mhm.
I've been, banging the drum for him. He's a good pass rusher. But same things I've been saying about why you would keep Draymond Jones, you can say about Zach Allen. He's coming into his prime, especially when defensive linemen come into their prime. He's at the prime age to really take off. So you're going to see the best, most likely the next couple of years of Allen. So that gives me hope. So those things that I was talking about kind of they're very similar to Allen. So I'm excited about it, even though I'm disappointed that Draymond Jones is gone. It was a little bit cheaper, but yeah, that's the big thing is it felt like Draymond Jones didn't want to be in Denver any longer. So if you don't want to be in Denver, you're not going to put in your most effort, that I would imagine. So get somebody else that's going to come in and put that effort in. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, culture change. Draymond Jones has never seen a winning season. And that's not all on Draymond Jones, but why don't I want to be in Denver anymore? Because I've been here. I haven't had a ton of success here. I've seen the fans turn on us to a certain extent. I'm ready for a fresh start too. Zach Allen's ready for a fresh start. It could be where they both end up playing better next year. Draymond was good when he was healthy. Zach Allen's been really good when he's healthy. He's big and he's strong. I really like him on the edge and against the run. I think he could be an upgrade against the run, and we'll see how he ends up doing against the pass as well. But thank you for coming in with that super chat, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Want to say another big thank you. I don't get to say thank you here enough. because Dylan's on in the nights a lot of the times, and every once in a while I get to see him when I'm doing these shows. Dylan is such a huge help to these chats, just because even when I'm moderating, I'm usually just following. Like right now, my timestamp on here says 7:47. Well, it's 8:22, so I'm 30 minutes behind trying to catch up to say hello to people.
Yeah.
So I'm checking on super chats and Facebook stars and making sure that those are getting taken care of. And I can't keep up with the chat live. Dylan does. Dylan does a fantastic job. So thank you so much, my friend. It is super appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Thank you for being here. And thanks for everybody jumping in the chat. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I mean, I know that we've been talking about free agency for 2 days, but it's officially official now. And then what's the next thing that's gonna happen? So I haven't had a chance to talk about free agency at all yet. So I'm pretty excited. I've got some favorites. But then what are we gonna do after this? Today is, it's already in the third day, so to speak. What comes next? That's another big topic that we've got to address, because there's still some holes in this roster.
Yeah, and you're not going to fill them all. It's hard to go from 5-6 wins to a playoff team right away, or to be in a full roster period. A lot of times, and I think I said this to Miguel or Lawrence the other day, it's kind of the blinders. It feels like, wait, we've got a ton of holes. Most teams have a ton of holes. It's like, well, our backup quarterback position wasn't very good. It's gotten better. But going into the last season, like nobody's backup quarterback position is really that good. If you got $50 million in a starting quarterback, the better the starter, probably the bigger difference is in your team. So that's fairly common. An injury to a starting quarterback really hurts you. So want to say hello to some folks again. Seth coming in, saying, "Sup, Scott and Thomas. Good to see y'all." Michaela Israel, she was answering somebody else to Mike S. I came down to when we started to say some of our hellos. Including Michaela, always a big part of the chat. Jetty Splash, two of the best. Well, thank you. I don't know how often Thomas and I actually are on together. I'm usually, giving him crap in the background of his morning show.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been on together, Scott. So this will be, we talk a lot after and a little bit before, but yeah, this is our first show together. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Should record those. And, we got to hang out a little bit. So I've actually met Thomas in person. I have not met Nick in person. I've been working with Nick for 2 years. We've done 400 shows together, and Nick and I have actually never met in person. Kevin Grace and hey, Scott, how you doing? US Dave say, yeah, Scott and Thomas. Glad you're happy to see both of us. Peter Conway says, is Sutton going to stay after the Patriots took their wide receiver? This has been a hot topic as well, the wide receiver conversation. I know there's a lot of people in here talking about Jerry Jeudy as well. Chiefs fan came in and made an ass of himself last night and was banned in a hurry. I think Dylan and I act like, Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, see who can get there quickest. Dylan beat me on the quick draw. So he's Doc. I must be Wyatt. But the wide receiver conversation, I don't think any of this means that from everything we've heard, that someone has to go. We're listening. They're on the block, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to go. And I still think if someone's going to go, it would be Sutton over Jeudy. Unless someone comes in and blows your socks off with a first and then some. The report out there, I think that Nick sent me today was the Broncos would listen to a first for Jeudy, but they would at least a third for Sutton. Based on the money involved, I think that makes sense. But I think Sutton's chances of staying are pretty good unless he wants out. That's the one thing we don't know for sure is maybe Sutton is saying, listen, let's do this quietly, but find me a way out of Denver.
Yeah. It would be a shame. I love Sutton. I love the way he played early in his career, very aggressive after the ball. It would be a shame to see him go. And not just because I like him, but the fact that there's so many so much injury unknowns with the wide receiver core. The only one that's really healthy on the four that we've been talking about is Jeudy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, oh, we'll just get Tim Patrick back and it'll be fine. Well, nobody knows how his recovery is going to end up being. I mean, Courtland Sutton took a while to get back into the swing of things. He may as well. I just don't like the uncertainty of now, if they're trading a player for player, they're getting another wide receiver that they really like. Okay, I can see that But you jump into the draft, if you're getting a third or fourth rounder for Cortland Sutton, you know what you have in Sutton. You don't know what you have in the draft.
If you're moving Sutton, it's more about the money and that he wants out than getting whatever you get back. I mentioned the Colts today, this morning, talking about Stephon Gilmore for a fifth. That's robbery, for a player. That's a financial deal.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton being moved is a financial thing, not for what you would get in return for him. Whatever you get in return for him, it's like, we'll take this. This isn't what he's worth, but you're going to be taking on his contract too. And we've talked about how, and for me, Thomas, looking at his contract, if you want to move him, wait a year. Wait a year. See what he can do under Sean Payton. And the financial ramifications for moving him next year are so much more beneficial to this team than moving him this year. Which not only helps you, it would help the team that would acquire him too. So I could wait a year and get production out of Sutton, see how it goes. And I could actually get more in return and save more money if I waited a year. So something tells me a little bit, because it doesn't add up, maybe Sutton wants out. Yeah. Maybe.
It seemed like he didn't like it with his tweet that came out. He seemed like he was upset that he was being, even mentioned in a trade. So I don't know. You could be right on that, but you're all absolutely right. Wait and see what happens. I mean, it's like they've signed everybody pretty much. They're missing a couple pieces, but who are you going to go out there and get now at this point that's going to make a huge difference in the couple of the positions that you still need?
Well, it's hard, when you're not in the building right now and everybody's away from it. And, I've worked in a remote business for 20 years. And the more you're away from people, the more it feels like I'm the only one that's doing anything. And this guy's sniping at me behind my back and all this kind of stuff. And then when you all get together, everything's all good again. So when they're away from people, the rumor mills start going and your brain starts speaking all the negativity. We talked about that with the quietness of the coaching search. I mentioned that to all y'all before. As the longer it was quieter, the more people started panicking. Right. I'm like, listen, you don't know anything. So Sutton reaching out like that is another symptom of being apart from everyone. And frankly, if you played for the Denver Broncos last year, unless your name is Russell Wilson because your contract prevents it, or Pat Surtain, you're expendable. There isn't any one of you that basically I wouldn't listen for. And I'd listen for anybody. You want to come to Sutton with me? Okay, let's talk 2 first-round picks and I'll answer the phone. Then I'm going to go for another one to close the deal. So everybody has a price. So get over it. Mike Gibbons, good evening, Thomas and Scott. Good evening to you as well. And Michael Ranquillo breaking the ice with stars over on Facebook. So thank you, sir. Says good evening, Thomas and Hall on the Mile High Insiders. We're going to go Mile High Outsiders tonight. I'm on the outside looking in. Sometimes you need that look. Go Broncos and buck 'em with a B. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for coming in, Michael. We really appreciate the support all the time. You're a Mount Rushmore of Mile High Huddle. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I just you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going on. People are going to ask if anybody's tradable, what they're going to take in their trade. So I understand the business side of it. I just don't understand the playing on the field side of it. When you have someone like Sutton, they're trying to change the culture. They're going with a much, to me, it seems like they're going with a different attitude. Like they're going to be out there, bullying people around with the people they picked up on free agency. In my mind, they've got a lineup of those. Sutton, in my mind, has that mentality. I think he's very aggressive. I think with the right coaching, he's going to be, kind of hard to handle when it comes to, even blocking. From my mind, he's a big guy. Gets the right coaching, get back to his old self. That's the mentality that you want to have on this team, and he has it. I think he has it more so than Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy might be a little more talented, but I think his mindset fits what they're trying to do.
Well, Miguel asks, sup, gents? Appreciate you coming with the stars, Miguel. It says, do you see a trade at wide receiver and another big free agent signing at, say, DB or running back? We hit on the wide receivers a little bit. And the thing is I kind of joke with y'all all the time about, why would we trade this guy? If you want to get something back, you're going to have to give something up. It's like when people say, man, this guy sucks. He's overpaid. He's old. He's always injured. He's overrated. We got to trade him. Well, He didn't do much of a sales pitch on that one, I tell you. Who the hell wants that guy?
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
really becomes like, well, Sutton's been hurt and Patrick's been hurt. Well, we need to trade them. They're costing too much money. We need to trade them. No, that's not how it works. If I want something back, let's talk Jerry Jeudy in a fifth-year option and cost control contract where he's cheap this year, relatively cheap in his fifth-year option. Now we can talk about getting. Well, I don't want to give up Jerry Jeudy. Exactly.
Yeah,
So that comes
absolutely.
with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other parts here, the DB and the running back, are kind of in play. I think they've kind of solved that with the Tremont Smith signing. I mean, I like Mathis. I think he's going to be your starter. You got some good depth. I don't see a big splash coming from the DBs. I know everybody's seeing Slay out there available and hoping for it. I don't see it. You can't have stars everywhere across your team unless you're drafting them and got lucky. I do think they might add another running back, possibly, but not a big splash running back. I think they're at $7 million now in cap space left. So unless they trade some money away or do some restructures, they're almost kind of done, except for some small ones.
If the right guy comes along, you can make something happen. I mean, I've
Sure.
watched. You're looking at the Saints a couple weeks ago, or $60 million over the cap, and they go and sign Derek Carr for $35-40 million, whatever it was. You can do some things. Big free agent signing. I don't know, man. I feel like that probably would have been done already.
Yeah.
You really got 3. I was expecting 1, maybe, at right tackle, and you got 3. You want big signing at guard and big signing at edge. When that first came out, and a lot of y'all saw it, when McGlinchey deal came out, I said, "There's your Draymond Jones money," and maybe it was, but that Draymond Jones money went to Zach Allen too. And that Draymond Jones money went to Ben Powers. So there was a lot of it there. You mentioned you can't have stars everywhere. Well, you know what? When Phil McLaughlin's here, you can. You can have stars all over the place. So appreciate the stars, Phil. He says, "Good evening, Thomas and Deacon Scott. Get well, Luke." Yeah, absolutely. What do you guys think about the Tremont Smith deal? And I probably butchered his name. That's how much I know about the deal. Go Broncos and Buckham. Have you done any research into him after he signed, Thomas, that you could help us out? Otherwise, I'm going to be reading PFF stats and bio information. I can't say I've ever watched him. I didn't watch a whole lot of Houston last year.
Yeah. He's a solid backup. And I think from what I saw coming when he got signed, a lot of Houston people were sad to see him leave. He's definitely a solid backup type DB, but where he really is going to cause some havoc with some of the incumbents is the kick returner. He might push Montreal Washington out of that kick returner spot. He's got some pretty decent stats for kick returner. So I think that might be his forte is coming in, doing some special teams, and then being that fourth cornerback. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and if you look at again, I don't know how good a job you take Pro Football Focus and their grades with a grain of salt, because it's different people doing different grades, different players for all teams. The ones for the Atlanta Falcons are pretty good. I think I can look at them and say, okay, yeah, you can believe what you see here. The ones for the Broncos, I think, are a little more shaky, but okay. But when I look at this, he's playing about 200 snaps. I think Justin Simmons played 1,000 last year. Yeah. So, you're a part-time guy. How much is he going to want to come in and play? Is he being counted on to play? Again, Thomas mentioned special teams. His specialty, what he did get a good grade on was run defense. So, a physical guy, maybe in the slot that you use him. Again, Thomas, I joked this morning with Nick that I think maybe the best run defender at edge, at setting the edge and defending the run for the Denver Broncos last year, was cornerback K'Wan Williams.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. He's a beast, man. I love K'Wan Williams. If he can stay healthy, that was one of my favorite signings. Him and DJ Jones last year. But yeah, I think it's a good signing. I just don't think it's gonna bump anybody out of the starter position. But special teams is valuable, and Montreal Washington and I tweeted this out. If he doesn't improve tremendously, he's going to lose that kick returner spot for sure.
Well, I think, and even on the coverage, the hidden yardage that you get in the kick coverage, as you see, it cost. I forgot his name, Dwayne Stukes.
Yes,
his job last year was the return and coverage, that those hidden yards. Mike Ford, cornerback, Denver Broncos. We watched him play in the preseason. It was just like, oh, no. No. He went to the Atlanta Falcons and was a special teams ace.
Yeah.
He was so good as a gunner that on punt coverage. He was really, really good. He can have a job as a gunner on special teams in Atlanta for as long as he wants one. He actually got featured by their social media team for some of the things in blocking for Cordero Patterson's touchdowns. So, yes, I cringed. I was like, Mike Ford, come on.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's got a job in Atlanta for a long time. Tall, Dark, and Mexican coming in on YouTube. He says, Ian and fellas, love the coverage morning, noon, and night. Yeah, you're pretty much 24/7 consider around the Denver Broncos coverage with Mile High Huddle. Y'all got it going on of the newly released free agents, Darius Slay, Ezekiel Elliott, etc. Do you see us going after any of the bigger names? Thomas, you mentioned those two a little bit earlier, so I wanted to, just follow that up with TD&M here.
Yeah, I just don't see him going for it. I mean, I think the price is going to be too high for Slay, number one. I think it would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. It would be return of the no-fly zone or maybe even better. Who knows? But it would be great. I don't see him going after Zeke either. I don't think they're going after either one of them. I mean, I'd like Zeke if he came in at a super cheap deal, but I don't think he will. He's got that reputation of, he was the number one guy. He had a big contract. I don't know if he'll settle for a cheap deal to kind of prove it. I'm not sure, but I think he'll get a deal somewhere else. He doesn't have
anything to prove. He's not going to get another big long-term contract. So if he needs to go, if Zeke's going to go anywhere like that, I think it would be ring chasing. Again, I watched guys like Todd Gurley, who were phenomenal and then fell off a cliff. Steven Jackson, big power backs, fell off a cliff.
Yep.
And has Zeke been anybody to really be feared in the last couple of years? There's a reason why Pollard got the franchise tag and Zeke's out of work.
Yep, absolutely. And I think they're going to go to the draft for a running back. I think, there's not much left out there. If you want to get a nice young running back, you're going to have to go to the draft. I think they like Perrine. I think they think he can kind of carry the load a little bit, and in hopes that Javonte Williams returns and does something down the stretch. Mm-hmm. I just don't see him doing it. I don't see him doing it with Zeke. I could be wrong totally, but I think they're going to go to the draft. I think if there's anybody that's going to come in kind of, last minute, it might be an old center. Because, and I don't know if that's true. I wrote up Cushenberry. I think that it's possible that Peyton sees some of the centers he had in the past in New Orleans in Cushenberry. So he may just take a chance to think that he can resurrect his career. But at this point, we're getting down to the wire here where there's not much left unless they want to bring in an older center like Hudson.
You said that like Ron Burgundy. Cushenberry? Damn it! Put a question mark on there.
It's true. I mean, but if you look at it, him coming out of college, he had the same traits of a couple of the centers that I mentioned in that article that the Saints had. Now, whether he really is that guy or not, you never know about coaches. You never know. They might have liked him back then, and they might think, hey, we'll keep him around for one season, but they have to draft one this year.
Yeah, you've got to find competition. You cannot pencil in Lloyd Cushenberry as your starter right now.
No.
I want to get a veteran that I feel better about, and if Cushenberry beats him out, so be it.
Yeah,
good on him. But you cannot go through another season with the center play that you had last year. Cannot. I mentioned DFF and take the grades with their grading system with a great assault, but I think there were 36 centers that had enough snaps to qualify, and the Broncos had 2 of them because basically 2 of them played half the season each. Cushenberry finished 32nd, and Glasgow finished 29th. And I'm scratching my head going, there were 3 guys worse than that? Wow.
Yeah, well, let's face it, Cushenberry did not fit in that offensive line at all last year.
He's been terrible for 2 years that I've been watching.
I'll tell you, he did have improvement from his rookie year to his sophomore year. Not a huge improvement. It was improvement nonetheless. Went from being really, really bad to middle of the road. So that's good. But there's little slim pickings, right? Man, is Ben Jones or Rodney Hudson going to come in for a cheap deal at this point? Unless they restructure somebody and make some room. Don't get me wrong. They might. Who's coming in at center right now? That's what I keep questioning is who are they going to sign?
The
Who's
bar has
out
been set low. It doesn't matter.
It's true.
That's where I am with this. People are like, "Oh, we should bring Glasgow back because he's cheap." I'm like, "He's cheap for a reason." I'm
It's
like, "Well,
true.
he can
It's
do
true.
this and this." No, he can't. He's done. I don't want him on the field. Well, he's a cheap backup. Well, a backup might have to play.
That's right.
I don't want
Yeah.
him out there. Cushenberry, if you cannot hold the point of attack at all, I got no use for you, man.
Yeah.
He's defensively athletic, gets out of the second level. Yeah, but he's in the backfield on every snap.
Yeah.
No, you
Well,
got to do that. Like I said, if he improves, I'm not calling him a bad player, but he has played badly.
Yep.
You've got to improve on the center play that you had last year, and maybe, to your point, maybe they can coax that out of him with some new coaching. Better scheme play will help for sure. The nose guard can't tee off because he knows, it's going to be a run play or a pass play, depending on the set. But some better balance will help. Gina Cooper coming in here, always keeping us balanced. Fair and balanced, right, Fox? So good evening, guys. Glad to have you here once again tonight for another fun free agency night here. Go Broncos country. It's been a whirlwind. I'll tell you, Nick keeps all those guys on alert. He sends me the updates. And it got to the point where, like, man, bing! I'm like, I don't have time to write another article, Nick. I can't keep up. Yeah. So the news that's been coming out, it has been a lot of fun, Gina. And thank you. Hope you have a fun time tonight as well. Again, you're watching the Mile High Insiders. I'm Scott Kennedy. I'm one of the Broncos for Breakfast hosts, and I'm producer on in the background. And a lot of y'all watching who don't always in the chat, because we've got a bunch of new eyeballs today. Might not know who I am. This is Thomas Hall. He's a regular. I'm filling in for Luke. I almost called him Luke Sanderson. Luke Patterson, who was a little under the weather. So we're having a good show tonight. So if this is your first time here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you get those alerts. So I want to come down a little bit more. George Fox has come in with some stars as well. I want to make sure we find George. And he says, thank you for the stars, George, over on Facebook. He says, there's Nick right now sending me Twitter instant messages. So I can't look at it, Nick. Says, glad to hear your opinion on how the team is coming along. Needed a guard. Again, I've not been a fan of Dalton Reisner. It's something I questioned behind the scenes early on last year. I'm like, how is this guy getting a pass? You guys want to talk right tackle? You want to talk center? Your left guard stinks. And again, I'll say the same thing. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm saying that he has played badly, and that can be part of the whole system. You've had 2 coaches fired in that time where the whole thing can be a mess. Dalton Reisner may thrive at a new place, and he may have been better this year, but the last years he's been poor. Bringing in an AFC North bully with 330 pounds in the trunk. Oh, I'm all about that. I'm very excited to see Ben Powers. I'm a big fan of Zach Allen. I think you can get better production, especially on the edge run defense out of Zach Allen. You got a Draymond Jones. And Mike McGlinchey, I think, should solve the revolving door at right tackle for the next 3 or 4 years. And you should get plus, maybe not $17 million out of the right tackle position, but I think he's a first name on the team sheet, and you can forget about, worrying about right tackle, Tom.
Yeah, I don't want to proclaim that we've won anything, when we're watching these these signings, because it is March, and people that spend a lot of big money in March don't always win. But they addressed some serious needs that have been deficient in the Broncos team. And that is a huge win on my part. And they went and were aggressive, and they are changing the face of that offensive line completely. And that's what they needed to do. So I really liked it, but I like the other signings too. I mean, they're going out and getting people that are fitting this new mentality. And the tight end, Manhurts, what a name, right? I like
Powers.
Powers and Manhurts.
In the trenches, and we got Manhurts and Powers.
That's right. I like it.
More power.
That's right. Go out there and pound the rock if you have to, whatever it takes. I don't think that they're going to be all just about the run. I mean, these guys are going to play, they're going to pass the ball too, but I like the signings. I like Allen too. Even though I was a little disappointed to see Draymond Jones go, I think they're addressing these needs well. I don't care if they overpaid. It's not my money. I don't care. Well, overpay if you have to.
I do when it means I can't address other positions. That's when I run into the actual cap, then I'm interested. We've had this conversation about Melvin Gordon's contract. And that was one of the reasons why he was never really embraced, thought he was overpaid. But every second that Melvin Gordon was a Bronco, the Denver Broncos had lots of cap space available, like 8 figures, 10 million plus of cap space available. His contract wasn't preventing you from doing something else. Russell Wilson's contract is, that's where you start running. It's like, I do care. So when you're able to get value out of a player, I'm very interested. And Riptide comes in. He's coming in. This is our first super of the day. So appreciate you breaking the ice on YouTube. He says, do we know how these signings impact the cap? I think the guys that came in are pretty low. I don't think there was big money put into those. Samaje Perine probably got the most of that bunch, but I haven't seen the numbers yet. Where we've got the numbers relatively for Ben Powers, Jarrett Stidham, McGlinchey, Manhurts, Alex Singleton, and Zach Allen. I have not seen the money on Burton and Smith yet, but I can't imagine it's going to be very high.
I think I saw
still
something.
Going to be maneuverable room there.
I think I saw something. It was not over the 2 million per year kind of range, I think. And I think it puts the Broncos at right around 7 million in cap left, I believe. So there's still some room to maneuver. If they do a restructure, they can go out and sign somebody. So I think it's very minimal impact.
And Seth come in, we were talking about everybody has a price, shout out to Ted DiBiase, the $1 million man. Said, I said, it's going to take you two first-round picks for me to answer the phone. Then we're going to talk about your third. So, yeah, your third, not your third-round pick, your third first-round pick. So, yeah, everybody has a price. Well, he's not worth that. That's what someone else might say. Well, he's not for sale. Yeah, plain and simple. I don't want to give him up. So, if you want him, you're going to have to make me an offer I can't refuse. So,
when it boils down to it,
he's not going anywhere. We're just talking. You should, if your name is in the paper, what's the newspaper? If your name is online and connected to rumor mills and stuff, it's that time of year. Everybody's expendable, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't win in March, you don't win in June. You win on the field. Patrick Surtain is a key player on the field. You have to give up something major to get him, and it's not going to happen.
James Richard coming in with the Predator and coming in green on the super chat. Thank you so much. He says, if Denver gives a wide receiver, who do they replace him with? I just joined, so I don't know if it's been addressed yet. One of the guys you're replacing with is Tim Patrick, because you didn't have him for the whole of last season. You got rid of a couple of your practice squad guys. I think Victor Bolden was one of them. I'm not sure who the other one is. Jalen Virgil could be in for a bigger role. KJ Hamler's still under contract. You're kind of elevating. Jerry Jeudy kind of found himself at the number one, but right now your answer pretty simply for me would be Tim Patrick. And the talk coming out of Dove Valley and the Broncos is that the Broncos really want some speed at receiver position, because they haven't gotten that out of KJ Hamler. He's been hurt too often. I think he's got 600 yards in 3 seasons. That's not somebody you can count on. Jalen Virgil is a fast guy playing receiver, not a wide receiver who is a fast guy, if that makes sense. Yeah. He doesn't really know the position. You can't really count on him. So they could look in the draft for a traits guy, someone who kind of like Virgil, but maybe has a little more production. Virgil wasn't an overly productive receiver at Appalachian State. I'm pretty sure that's where he went. Looked up his numbers. He only had like 800 yards receiving in college, for a team that threw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards a year. So you might be looking for speed in the middle rounds at wide receiver in the draft, Thomas.
Yeah, you might be replacing him actually with a different sort of scheme. I mean, Sean Payton has fluctuated between 3 wide receivers and then 2 tight ends that get more of the attention than a third wide receiver. So it may be something where you find them that you don't actually replace Sutton. You bring, you let Tim Patrick come back, work his way into it, and you actually use 2 tight ends more and get some production out of them. And so it may not be a wide receiver straight up change. It might be a little bit of a scheme change.
Alabama Chagrin say it comes in and YouTube. Appreciate you, AS. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Love the pairing of Scott and Thomas. If you'd invite me on in the mornings, I'd come on with you on Friday mornings too.
All right. Let's do
Scott,
it.
I feel better now that you thought Allen was your premier defensive guy in free agency. I'm really struggling to think of, okay, who would I really have wanted at that position, really at any position? I love what the size that he's bringing in, the motor that he's bringing in, the athleticism that he's got, getting it done in Arizona, in a place where it's not easy to get it done. It's almost similar to me saying, if you see a guy doing something for free, a guy or girl who's willing to do something for nothing, wait till you pay him and you're able to make that dream that they love doing and turn it into a living. This guy's been, I know, toiling away still in the NFL, but in Arizona, Vance Joseph loves him, so that's one of his guys. Again, a fresh start for Draymond, a fresh start for Zach Allen, I think could benefit both of them greatly, and I'm really looking forward. And thanks for the comment, my friend.
Yeah, I think Draymond's going to have a pretty decent season in Seattle. Unfortunately, it's going to be with the Seahawks.
And James, we hit on Zeke a little bit, Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think you should go there. I had this conversation with just sitting around watching baseball practice with some dads, and it's like, oh, he's kind of not much more than a power back, and he ain't all that big. If Derrick Henry decided that his speed was gone and he was just a power back, okay, he's 230, 240 pounds. That makes sense. Zeke is a power back, but he doesn't have that kind of size, which is one of the reasons why he's breaking down, Thomas.
Yeah, it's at some point they all do, right? And some happen really early. And I've talked about it before. At 25, that's when they start to decline. And sometimes they go fast. They go really fast. There's some Hall of Famers out there that stuck it out for a while and were still productive, but those are special. Those special occasions. This is just a decent, really good back early on who's kind of got not much left in the tank. I wouldn't want to take a shot at him unless, like I said, it was super cheap, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't mind a true power back as they get older. Latavius Murray for $1 million, but he's a guy who's going to take his $1 million and be thankful for it and thankful for the opportunity because he was on a practice squad. Yeah, give me the rock, man. I'm running from every carry I have could be my last. And he ran that way last year. But US Dave, we're getting back to the Cortland Sutton discussion. He said, I always thought Sutton's contract was team helpful. Why do we jettison a good player that isn't bad on our cap? Exactly. Again, we've talked about a lot of it doesn't make sense unless you factor in the possibility that Sutton wants a move, which I don't know that he does, but that's one of the things, like you said, it doesn't make sense. That would make sense. That's about the only way it's making sense to me. How bad do I need another third-round pick? Well, I could use a former 1,400-yard youngish receiver who's not bad on my cap, a little more than a third-round pick, Thomas.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like his cap hit is not bad. I mean, everybody's talking about, oh, they got a great deal with him, so why get rid of him he actually didn't play terrible. He wasn't like he was a bad player last year. He played 800 yards, so not terrible.
The problem with those 800 yards is I think, like, I did the numbers on it. It was like 37% of his yardage came in the first 16% of the games.
Yeah.
So he was uber productive to begin with when Russ was kind of forcing him the ball. And then he fell off a little bit, pouted a little bit. Everything went to crap. Everybody was unhappy, So, I mean, everybody was unhappy, especially on that offense.
True. It's true, but it's the thing I don't get too, worrying about cap space, like people trying to restructure Russell Wilson. You should, no, his cap hit right now is actually favorable. You don't want to make the 58 million now 60 million in year 3. I mean, sometimes you don't worry too much about the money, right? It's not all about cap space. Can you get something in return that's reciprocal of what he has actually put on the field? I just don't see it.
Yeah, and part of that reciprocal is I can use that money in order to fulfill other needs in other places. But again, it's so much more beneficial to you financially if you can just wait a year.
Yeah.
Tim Patrick's contract is like that. Russell Wilson's you can get out from under. Randy Gregory's a setup like that. A lot of these contracts that are on the Denver Broncos are set up that the question coming in was, why would Sean Payton want to take this job when you're cap strong and you're tied to Russell Wilson? 1 year. 1 year, and this team is set up to hit the freaking nuke button and start over. And I can rebuild this team with the richest owners in all of professional sports. Not really, because there's actually like Saudi Arabia owned soccer teams, but in the NFL for sure. I can do that in a great football city with the Denver Broncos, and start over. Okay, well that worked. I don't think Sean Payton is married to Russell Wilson at all.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to earn it if he wants to be here more than 12 months.
And they should see that next year. Like
Mhm.
they'll know next year if that's the thing. So don't get rid of them now. See what happens next year. If they aren't any better, then fine, get rid of them. Like you said, that's a much more manageable effort at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to move on from anybody that's shown promise. I mean, Cortland Sutton, the year that he had before he got hurt was amazing.
Yeah.
2 years removed from that surgery, he should be good to go. A little bit can go a long way to getting these guys on offense happy. Which one of them was going to be happy? Phil McLaughlin comes in again. He says, "I was surprised that we picked up fullback. I know that's going to make Miguel happy." Mike Burton or Lawrence, both my Facebook guys. I get confused sometimes. But it may have been Lawrence who's been pining for a fullback for 2 years. Fullback Mike Burton, thoughts? My thoughts on this, and I'll turn it back over to you, Thomas, real quick. Is Drew Brees was known for throwing a ton of yards. You think of him as air raid. No, it wasn't like that. The running backs were basically, we're going to run to set up the pass, and then we're going to throw to the running backs to set up the pass. It was I bet my guess is Mike Burton's probably good in pass protection. He's probably a decent receiver out of the backfield. That's my guess, but knowing what I know out of Sean Payton.
I was talking about them trying to retain Andrew Beck from the get-go because I've looked back at Sean Payton's teams, and he's carried a fullback almost all the time. He relies on the fullback. I mean, that's not a big part of their offense as far as, being a receiving fullback with a lot of receptions or whatever. It's going to be, a lead blocking role, special teams. I'm happy as can be with it. When Andrew Beck left, I said they needed to get another fullback in there. This guy's a great fullback. I mean, if you want a fullback, this is one of the premier, I guess you could say, premier fullbacks out there that were available. So I'm happy with it. They need it. He's going to be a key player in some of the packages that they roll out for sure.
I've said it a bunch. I've seen this Denver Broncos team get bullied by teams that will bully them in the trenches. They got bullied. You go 340 pounds of Powers in the middle. I still need upgrade at center, and then I'm okay. You give me Powers and Miners flanked with a competent center, the gut of your offensive line just got a whole lot tougher, without any doubt. Now you got a 240-pound hammer back there as well. 245-pound 6 foot. That's a hammer. He's made a living. He's been doing this a long time. He's been in the league 2, 4, 6, 8 years. That's somebody you want on your side.
Yeah.
I guarantee there aren't going to be too many guys that are going to want to blitz up the middle and run into him. So that immediately makes your team tougher.
Yeah.
Tougher. And the Broncos needed a heavy dose of that, Thomas.
Yeah. And he's bringing in a championship mentality too. I mean, he was just on the Chiefs. They're bringing in players that have that mentality. And you said it earlier, and I've talked about it. The Broncos, many of the players have known nothing but losing. Bringing in some other fresh perspective, someone who just came off of a championship, who has that aggressive attitude and who can be a leader. And like Bill Romanowski back in the day, he brought a championship mentality to the Broncos defense. Maybe this is what helps that kind of be a catalyst for a bit more of that mentality on the offense.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, we've said a bunch. Culture change is one of the things we're looking for. So we're at let's see, we're at 9:00 my time, Eastern time right now. We're about 45 minutes. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon. So if you got any burning questions or anything, make sure you get them in before we get out of here. James Richard comes in. He says, I do think the 3 veterans, OL, will help Cushenberry.
Hope so.
The scheme change. Now, I don't even see scheme change. Because, I get a little bit annoyed sometimes with scheme when you're talking about guys who just flat out aren't good enough. You talk about, he's better in this scheme. Well, then he's not good enough. If he stinks in this scheme, then I want better. I don't want a guy that's dependent on a scheme. I want an athlete that is good regardless of scheme. Yes, people are going to be better from one thing or another, but they shouldn't ever be bad. They shouldn't be bad. They shouldn't be getting knocked on their butts every time the ball is snapped. That's bad. That's scheme independent in a bad way. Competent offensive coordination and keeping a team off balance will help everybody on the offensive line for sure. We saw a glimpse of that at the end of last year, Thomas.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was night and day. That's why, I mean, you're right. players are good or they're not good, regardless of scheme. But last year, I think a lot of people were worse because of the mess that was so-called offense. I said it from the get-go. I was like, it looked like they tried something and it wasn't working, so they just scrapped it and went with a hodgepodge. That's gonna screw up everybody on offense pretty much. So I actually hope I actually liked Cushenberry coming out of college. I hope he does improve and like has a good year. I really do. I'm that's wishful thinking probably because he hasn't shown it. But if he can, if they can get away with Cushenberry and he's good enough, that's going to be a win.
Yeah. And James, you came in several times today. Thank you so much for helping to, as Chad likes to say, Mr. Mile Huddle likes to say, keep the lights on. And what those lights do is they help keep my forehead nice and shiny. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming in. I'm checking
Mine's
out
shiny today, man. Whew, look at that light.
I'm checking out some of the comments coming in. Actually, let's say hello to this guy. That's Steve Kennedy is up and at 'em, who had gallbladder surgery yesterday. So and that turns out to be an outpatient thing. So Steve Kennedy, talked to him yesterday.
Well.
Glad you're
Get
up
well
and
soon.
doing better, that you made it to the chat today. So welcome in.
Yeah. Get well soon, Steve. That doesn't sound very pleasant. I know. I would never like to have that.
Yeah, and Aki Dragon says the Cardinals have won more games since 2015 than the Broncos have. Yeah, I was but talking about, a culture change. I was talking about the Cardinals of the last couple of years. They haven't been very good. So, getting that fresh start, you're saying, okay, well, he's excited to get out of there, or, a fresh start. There were some similarities there, but still, when sometimes in more stressful games, baseball in particular, the mentality can actually hurt you early on. You're trying to do so much that, it needs to be, baseball is a grind. It's every day. Football, though, that little bit of extra that you're able to get because I want to prove what I'm doing out there can give you this is a bigger, faster, stronger game. If I'm a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, and a little bit stronger, because I want to prove that I'm worth my new contract to my new team who has put their faith into me, that's a good thing. So, expect to see the best is yet to come from Zach Allen.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, Scott, I'm kind of high on him, even though I was down that Draymond left. I'm high on him, but the big thing for me is he's got to get and this is I said this before. Pressures are great on a lot of quarterbacks, but we watched the Super Bowl. They were putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and he still completely burned them. You got to get him into the ground. You have to. And I want to see him getting to the quarterback. I know he's getting pressures. I know he has some batted balls. You need to get him in the ground, facing him twice a year. You got to get to him. I want to see him a little bit more.
You know who I saw handle Patrick Mahomes in the last 2 years in big-time games? Who handled Patrick Mahomes?
Tampa Bay.
Well, I'd say the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah,
in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, Cincinnati Bengals did. And they did it because beyond all realms of possibility and probability, they got pressure with 3 guys.
Yeah.
You normally say if you can get pressure with your front 4, you're really dangerous. That's something I truly and wholeheartedly believe in. They were dropping 8 into coverage and getting pressure with 3.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a formula that you can replicate. So, I don't know how you stop Patrick Mahomes on a consistent basis. He's just that good. You try and build up your team that I'm good enough to be in the game, and when it comes my turn, maybe I'll get a shot at it. The refs won't call a holding penalty to end the game when they've got the ball. But I digress. That was just a shout out to my I feel cheated video that I felt cheated by the end of that game because I wanted a more dramatic ending. Than what I got when that flag went down. I went, game's over. Well, that kind of stinks. This was an epic game. And I didn't think it was a hold. I thought it was a borderline call anyway. But that is still going on my Facebook page. I'm still getting salty Kansas City Chiefs fans who are only proving my point that we were all cheated, including Kansas City Chiefs fans. Anyway, Nathan Letuala coming in. Great show, guys. Great dashboards, Thomas.
Thank
Didn't
you.
recognize your Tableau public profile because your pic shows a beard. We're the same age, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
All right. Well, so on on the show, I think it was on this show last week. Or maybe it was on Saturday. I was talking about my Tableau dashboards. I built a draft probability calculator. You can go in, you can make trades on there. It'll tell you whether you've lost probability or gained probability. And I added a probability comparison for positions too. So based on the last 10 years of drafting up until 2019, because we're still kind of looking at what's going to happen for these new draftees. So it's a cool tool that I use all the time to say, hey, we just traded these 3 picks for these 3 picks. Did we win or lose it? Instead of using that value pick that Jimmy Johnson came up with, which was just descending numbers, this is actual real math. So yeah, go check it out. It's on Tableau Public, free to use, just because I felt like making
it. Now I get what you're talking about. And, I'll tell you appreciate you coming in, Nathan. I'll tell you the kind of comments that annoy me. And someone called me out to talk to me about it yesterday. It's stuff like this. It's from Iron Man KMSA. Listen, we can agree, we can disagree, but your opinion is no more valid than mine. At least he didn't throw in an LOL or ML, laugh my hiney off type of thing. Sutton's the second highest paid player on the team. Oh my God, wake up. It's $18 million. For a premier wide receiver, that's not awful. And his cap hit isn't that bad. And it gets real easy to get out from next year. That was the point we were trying to make. Your dead cap isn't that beneficial to try and move this year. So you don't get the financial flexibility if you move on from him this year. Why else would you try and trade him for a third, if not for better financial flexibility? You get really good, oh my God, type of flexibility if you wait 1 year. 1 year. And for the premier wide receivers that are getting 20 plus million, I think I looked it up yesterday, and this was before any new contracts have happened. He was about 12th or 13th in the NFL, which isn't awful for a guy who's had a 1,400-yard receiving season at 25 years old and then got hurt. Yeah. If he can become a 1,200-yard receiving type of guy again in a Sean Payton offense, 18 million's a bargain.
Yep.
In this day and age, for goodness sakes. And again, yes, he is highly paid. Yes, he has a fairly flexible contract, but that flexibility is next year. Wake up, dude.
I like it was all caps. That means it's serious, right? You want to make sure that we got it. And we did. We got it. It's cool. I mean, everybody has their own opinion. I have an opinion. I don't, and may not like it, or who knows. So whatever.
Really? No, really. And this was before I just said this, so he didn't get a chance to respond. Really, it is much more beneficial to hold on to and make a move next year because of the dead cap numbers and ramifications. It doesn't make sense to me to try and move on from him this year for a 3rd round pick because you don't get the financial benefits that you would next year. And the other team might not be willing to send as much because they're taking on the money that you don't get the benefit from because of the dead cap hit.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense.
Guess what? If he stays here next year and he has a 1,200-yard season, no one's going to be complaining. They're going to be like, yeah, it's a great deal. He's getting paid $18 million. We got 1,200 yards out of him and 8 touchdowns. What a steal. So, it all depends on your perspective.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, he is well paid. He is. And he's probably, we're talking about him and Tim Patrick. Well, Tim Patrick's definitely overpaid. He's like the 5th, 3rd or 4th highest paid guy. And he didn't even play. Yeah, I get that too. Let me see here. There's some last ones coming in. Before we get out of here, Phil McLaughlin came in again. Let me see if I can find him as I scroll down here. Phil McLaughlin had some stars. Want to make sure we take care of him, but we'll get James Richard again, the Predator, coming in. Nice. So it's my opinion that Denver has the best defense because they was out there almost all season long. Last year, my fear. So we won't get a good offense until we lose that great defense. Yeah, you want to find the balance, and it just drove me crazy. I get fired up in these conversations, as you can tell, and this is me holding back because I'm actually live streaming, believe it or not. When I would hear the priests talk about the defense letting the team down, just drove me nuts. I'm like, I can't believe they held on that long when your offense is historically bad and 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out, and you're going to complain because they gave up a field goal to lose 12-9? Come on. So yeah, that was the fear, was that, you'd have to cut in. And it is a fear. Hopefully Zach Allen can make up for the loss of Draymond Jones. Where's Bradley Chubb? Hopefully that's Randy Gregory. Can you count on him? With Von Miller, you've lost a lot of good talent. Shelby Harris, you've lost some good talent the last 12, 13, 14 months. You have. Can it be replaced? Zach Allen's a good start. But that's really the big ticket guy. Nick Bonito hasn't been a whole lot of help yet. So James, I'm with you on this, dude. I get it.
I think if they're healthy, you're going to see a pretty solid defense again. Face it, their edge rushing was decimated from injuries almost the whole year, and they still played pretty well. Now, if the offense is better, you're not going to see the same numbers that they put up, the defensive points against, probably, because they're going to be playing. People are going to be playing to score more points when they didn't have to last year. But health is the big thing. Randy Gregory plays 17 games, and Browning plays 17 games. You're going to see a better all-around defense, I think.
Health
if
30.
the health.
I got 30. I got 30 out of those two. I'd call it pretty happy. That'd be 15 each.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty solid. Phil coming in. We're just about ready to get out of here. Got a couple more supers we got to run through, but he says, another right tackle. Scott, the Atlanta Falcons didn't pay that much for Caleb McGarry. Should we have tried to spend more to get him? I think I would have preferred him. So Caleb McGarry ended up getting he got a 3-year, $34.5 million contract. My guess would be at 10 million, 11 million per, that probably means about 22 guaranteed. That's about a third of what McGlinchey got. Yeah, I would rather have that contract for sure. I'm not positive. I wouldn't rather just have had the player. I'm a big fan of what Caleb McGarry can do in the running game. And if you want to bully people, he's a bully out there. So if you at the same price, I think it's a no-brainer. My gut feeling though, Phil, and I said this on one of our podcasts, the Falcons and McGarry had a deal done. They had one done. When they didn't tag him, I said it that day, I won't be surprised if a deal gets announced before the opening of the free agency period. Now, it didn't get announced Monday or Tuesday, and those huge deals hit, and I was like, oh, God, he's gone. They're not going to pay $70 million for him. No, they weren't. They paid 34 for him, and that's probably 2 years, 22, 23 million with an option year. McGarry, with more money, I would have much rather had that contract for sure, maybe a little bit more than McGlinchey in that big contract. But my gut feeling, Phil, was the Falcons had already done a deal for him.
Yeah, it is a bummer to see those deals come in a little bit cheaper, but and I have my questions about McGlinchey. Obviously, I actually preferred Jawan Taylor for the money, but we've got him here. We're going to watch him play. I keep my fingers crossed that some of the weaknesses are not as glaring this year as we've seen in the past. So yeah, it's a bummer. It is a bummer, but you can't do anything about it at this point.
And Brian Birch coming in, just about ready to close us out tonight. He says, "Hi guys, any word on the safety from the Eagles? Now, is that Bradbury? I guess is the safety.
I think it's Chauncey. Chauncey Johnson, CJ.
There's a ton of Eagles who were free agents.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's him. I don't know. It seemed like there was a lot of buzz about it. He was following a bunch of people that were Broncos on Instagram and stuff, talking, a lot of buzz about it, but it hasn't happened. I don't know what he's going to command as a contract. So that's tough to see. But I mean, if the Broncos really want to really massage the salary cap and start getting better deals down the road, go with the young guy. Go with Caden Stearns. See what he can do. He was a promising rookie. Get some injuries. I don't know. I'd rather see what you could do with that safety than go out and spend big on an older safety. I don't know. I don't know how old he is, but he's been around for a while. Then try and build yourself up through the youngsters and fill in those spots where you don't have the stars, and see if you can build a youngster up and become an elite player.
Appreciate you, Double B. Brian Birch coming in with the super. Nathan Leitualid coming in with the brace. That's 2 goals in hockey and soccer terms. So he's got the brace tonight. He says, with all the new additions to the offensive line, do you expect the starters to play more in the preseason than they did last year, a.k.a. Russ? Oh, yes. My God.
Yes.
God, I forgot about that, Thomas.
Yes,
you got a new
I
system,
do.
A new quarterback, new everything, and we're not going to go out and scrimmage?
Yeah. No, I at first I actually was kind of duped into thinking, all right, yeah, you don't want to get injured, but the offensive line needs to gel. And the problem was they went out and were rusty and then got injured anyway.
Yeah.
Right away. So it's like, okay, yeah, there's a balance to it, but I think the offensive line definitely needs to play. And Sean Payton has been very vocal about they're going to play in the preseason. We're not going to have this everybody sit and then come out and look like a rusty team in game one.
Like the first 3 games look like preseason games,
right?
And then
exactly.
and then like you said, then they're hurt anyway. So
yeah.
I forgot about that. It bothers me a little bit. Part of this, I make a good living in football, and it's like this is the only game in the world where it's so dangerous that people don't want to play it.
Yeah.
It's like, where else would you say, no, we don't want to scrimmage because we don't get anybody else hurt? What? Everybody wants to scrimmage to help sharpen your team in every other sport ever imaginable. Guys pull out of bowl games because they don't want to risk getting hurt. That's how risky this game is. And every once in a while, that makes me feel a little guilty, just a little bit. Hopefully, because I know so many of these guys aren't compensated. It's happening more at the college level with the NIL where they are making some money. And that makes me feel better. I digress, though. Want to finish up? I know Michael's down here. I want to flash Michael before we get out of here because Michael Rankia is going to close us out with the message. And if I can find it in here, Michael, where'd you go? Here we go. Nice and simple, but it's so consistent, and he's always here. He's like Michael's security blanket Ronquillo.
yeah,
it's only the Broncos had a left tackle and right tackle, an offensive line as consistent as Michael Ronquillo is. Right. It's a great show tonight, Thomas Hall and Scott on Mile High Insiders. Go Broncos and buck them with the B. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Thomas, I think we got to get out of here. You got any last words? You want to tease your show on Friday? What you got coming for us?
Yeah, no, I don't even know what I'm going to really talk about on Friday, actually, to tell you the truth. I've got 3 shows. So it's kind of hard to like prep. So I don't know what I'm going to say. It's going to be something historical though, obviously.
We'll see what the news cycle brings.
Yeah. If there's some big news that come up, but otherwise it'll probably be something based on history, but I'm going to start bringing back the Mile High Legend. I think that was fun. It was fun for me. I hope people liked it. And so it's a nice mix, but yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about. So we'll see, but I appreciate everybody that came in and hit us up in the comments. They were great comments, good conversation. Thanks for the support. Really appreciate it.
An hour flew by. So this was the Mile High Insiders. I was the Mile High Outsider tonight, just kind of crashing the party. But you can follow the mothership account at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. And if you haven't checked out all the available options, MHH is in Mile High Huddle, merch.com. And I will not say the rest of that. Swag, I disagree, is stuff we all get. We got to pay for this stuff. This is stuff you need. You need to get. You can follow on Facebook at Mile High Huddle Pod, and Instagram is someplace they've been talking about a lot lately. And then this is a big one, Apple Podcasts. Look up the Mile High Huddle podcast on the Apple Pods. You can leave your priest a 5-star review, but why don't you throw in our names too? If you appreciate the effort, say you liked us. What could we do better at? We had a lot of fun being here today. Thomas, had a great time tonight. Thanks for asking me to come in. Loved being here. Everybody in the chat, BK, going to come in and close us out. Love this duo. Great show. Appreciate you as well. And Dylan, I said I opened the show with a thank you. I'm going to close it with a thank you. And to that, I'm going to say good night. And you can check out Nick and I will be on tomorrow morning, Broncos for Breakfast, at 7 a.m. Mountain Time, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. We're early. Broncos for Breakfast. Set your clocks. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.